Hey Moglets, today we're raising the newest 5-star in Wuthering Waves, named something along the lines of Zhezhi. We have to finish farming for her first, and that mainly involves spamming the Lampy Lumen, doing my 3 weekly bosses on the turtle, and starting the Moonlit Clouds event to get the rest of the Ascension material. And there we go, we could finally get her to level 90. Next was her signature weapon. We quickly ran into a ring shortage, and so the farming began again. We started with farming the shop, but it wasn't nearly enough. Those 200 rings roughly equate to only 23 purples. It was enough for a couple more ascensions, but then we hit another shortage, the Presto Helix. Thankfully, we already had some lower grades, so we were halfway there already. But halfway's not enough, and I knew we had a long way ahead of us. We got a raw gold on our first run. I thought perhaps this was a sign, some pity from the gods, and our runs would be incredible. Sadly, much like my father and his promise to return after getting milk, these were false hopes. Run after run of no golds in sight until it happened on my last 40 wave plates. Okay, I don't know why this is so dramatic. With all those runs, we can make 11 more golds, plenty for the next star and not too far away from the final one. After 3 more runs and a bit of crafting, we had done it. Just a few gold rings left. We spent a long time hunting exiles and hit a couple of big bases. It was finally enough. We just had one thing left to do, get it to level 90. I didn't want to spend more wave plates, so I got desperate, throwing my extra 4 stars in, but it still wasn't enough. I figured just one run would be, and I was right. There it is, with its juicy flat 500 attack and 72 crit damage. And now for perhaps the worst part, the Forte. Thankfully, we don't need rings again here, but indeed many more weapon materials. So off we went. As far as talent priority is concerned, I always want to get the second row and both passives first. Then it's important to understand the character. How I plan to use her is as an off-field sub-DPS paired with a main DPS. How Zhezhi works is by first filling up her Forte gauge, turning this energy into orbs, then unleashing 3 skills in a row. She gets the Forte energy by normals and her intro skill, with her intro skill giving her a lot. Using her resonance skill transforms this energy into special orbs. Also, doing a normal attack after skill also transforms this energy into orbs. Once you have 3 orbs, you can spam her resonance skill for some good damage. Obviously, I'm simplifying a bit here, but we'll go over a proper rotation a bit later. Her ultimate is pretty separated from this. It summons some things and they will do coordinated attacks with the on-field character when that character deals damage. It is a very nice source of damage over the course of its duration, but there's not much else to say. Knowing all of that, her Resonance Liberation and Forte Circuit are going to be the most important skills to raise as a priority. Upgrading her Resonance Liberation increases the up to 21 instances of damage, and her Forte Circuit increases the damage of almost everything else she does. You'd be forgiven thinking her normal attack is very important to raise. Her signature weapon gives a lot of normal attack bonus, and most of her damage is considered normal attack damage, but it still scales with the multipliers of the respective skills, and only true normal attacks will get added power by raising it. That's not to say you won't do normals with her, but it's not a significant part of her overall damage. The same is mostly true of her resonance skill, since you'll really only do it once in a rotation. The 3 back-to-back skills are using the Forte Circuit multipliers. So in a nutshell, Forte Circuit and Resonance Liberation. Everything else is just okay, but not that important overall. After a lot more farming, we were able to get the important ones to 8, and everything else to 5, since until level 5, it's still relatively cheap. Sadly, we ran out of money again, so we went back to farming, and also got some shell credits from the event. With that, we were also able to get the 2 crit rate nodes, which I'm happy about. Moving on to build, and starting with her weapon. We're just going with her signature this time, but Yinlin's signature is also good for her. And since they'll probably never be in the same team, sharing it isn't a bad idea to save on some Asterites. Cosmic Ripples, while not as good as the other 2, is still solid for its 5-star stats and basic attack damage increase, since again, most of her damage is considered as basic attacks. For F2P, Jinzhi Keeper is an okay 4-star, or Guardian Rectifier, which you can craft if you have nothing else. For Echoes, we are also building her like Yinlin with 5-piece Moonlit Clouds. It's the best general support set for boosting your main DPS's damage. If you want to get a little funky and main DPS with her, go right ahead, you can go 5-piece Freezing Frost. But for this video, we're using her how I believe she's intended, as a sub-DPS. Main Echo will be Heron, a crit rate Heron in my case. If If you're borrowing Yinlin's weapon, you might want to go crit damage. Just depends what you need more of. For cost 3 main stats, we want double Glacio damage. With her signature, going 1 attack 1 Glacio doesn't hurt her DPS very much, but double Glacio is still preferred. And for cost 1s, of course, we're going attack percent. As far as substats are concerned, just look at my whiff waff here. All 5 of these are actually good. The only thing that would make it better, aka perfect, is replacing this flat attack with crit rate. Though at least flat attack is still not useless. Sadly, crit stats are the most valuable. I would say followed by attack and basic attack damage bonus, because really most of her damage is considered basic attack damage bonus, so this is a very good substat for her. As far as energy regen is concerned, you do want some because her burst is very powerful and very important, but it also has a pretty massive 25-second cooldown, so I don't think you'll need that much energy regen. But anyway, we have finished building her, so I'll walk you through my stats here. Crit rate Heron with crit rate, basic attack, and energy regen. I'm not really going to talk about the bad stats. Glacio damage bonus with double crit and flat attack. Another Glacio with another double crit and energy regen. Cost 1 attack percent with crit rate, energy regen, and basic attack. And then the whiff waff we saw with, I would say, 4.5 good stats. Overall stats, we are looking at 1848 attack. Closer to 2000 is where I'd rather be, but I did roll every echo available to me to try and get the best ones out of what I had, and this is what I ended up with. 64 crit to 270 crit damage, knock 100 off, that's 170. 1-to-2 ratio indicates I should have around 230 crit damage, but the issue is I already have a crit rate cost 4 and a crit rate substat on every echo except 1. So eventually, even though it hurts, I probably would want to try and swap this one out with one that has crit rate, especially because I think we currently have a little bit too much energy regen anyway. I mean, you can't really have too much, but after a certain point, it becomes wasteful. We have 144%, but yeah, we'll see. I'm assuming that should be enough for her 25-second cooldown. She is still S0, but we could get her up to S1, and that would help my crit rate situation quite a bit and would probably be a better case to replace that really good looking cost 1, because we also restore 15 resonance energy. So I would say my Zhezhi is pretty much ready to go into battle now. We will briefly talk about teams, but since Wuthering Waves doesn't have that many characters yet, this will be pretty short. I do think this is the best team currently in the game. Verina, Zhezhi, Jinhsi. I do think Zhezhi is pretty versatile. I mean, at the end of the day, she is a sub-DPS. I do think they synergize very well for 2 different reasons. First of all, after doing Zhezhi's ultimate, those are coordinated attacks, which Jinhsi really likes. And Jinhsi's outro skill amplifies resonant skill damage by 25%, which Jinhsi does a lot of. I do think you can use other DPSs, like Chongli. I do think Zhezhi works fine with anyone though. Like I said, she's just a sub-DPS. She does, a lot of off-field damage, some on-field damage. She has pretty short on-field time if used, efficiently. If you're dead set on maining Lingyang, he's probably one of the more interesting scenarios because he is actually Glacio, which he also buffs with outro skill. So for the most part, we are going to be sticking with this team. But before we actually go into Tower of Adversity, I want to go into a bit more detail about her rotation. Her basic gameplay loop involves starting with someone else, Verina in my case, and filling Concerto energy to get Zhezhi's intro skill. This is important since her intro skill gives her a lot of Forte energy. With Zhezhi on the field, you'll do 3 basic attacks to get past the second bar on her Forte gauge. Then you do skill to transform the normal energy into orbs. After that, you just do 1 normal attack. Doing this right, you should now have all 3 orbs and you can spam her skill 3 times. If you can do her ultimate at this point, do that. Use the echo ability and swap cancel out to someone else. In my case, since I plan to use Jinhsi as my main DPS, most likely I would swap to Jinhsi first, just because for the most part, when you have Jinhsi in your team, she wants to eat all of the intro skills she can. So in a full team, you'd start with Verina, then go to Jinhsi, do all of her stuff, and then swap to Zhezhi, do her stuff, and then back to Jinhsi. We've cleared the first 3 floors already because they're generally pretty easy, and so we'll just do the last floor, reset this, and then we'll try and full clear Hazard Tower with the team as well. As a first try with the team, I think it went okay. I did make a few mistakes here and there. Also, I noticed we might even need a little bit more energy recharge somehow. Like there was a point where her ultimate was just about to come off cooldown. We didn't have quite enough energy, so we had to just swap out and not do it. Overall, she is a somewhat simple character if you just focus on the gameplay loop. Once you get more to the middle of a battle, some basic attacks might not actually be required. Like I did swap in at one point and she just already had full energy. That might be because I didn't do something totally right in an earlier rotation. It doesn't really matter. It's mainly just a matter of getting those 3 orbs and using her 3 skills. But yeah, let's see if I can handle Hazard Tower with her here. I'm sure she is strong enough herself. It's just, yeah, I might need a bit more warm up here. If this crits, this should be a good one. Nice. We actually did almost get a 300k a little bit earlier as well. But yeah, we can actually do her rotation pretty quick here. Should have swap canceled. Okay, that was my mistake. Oh, and her intro wasn't ready. Okay, let's go to Verina. I'm not sure if we got hit at one. No, we actually didn't. We are actually kind of popping off here. He's almost dead and we have 40 seconds left. So this is actually crazy. This is our first run and this should actually do it here. Wow. We had like over 30 seconds left. First try. That's crazy. She's way easier to use than Yinlin, I gotta say. And for me, that's honestly pretty awesome. But all right, Hazard Tower floor 2. Typically, these are quite a bit harder, so we will see here. Taking care of these minions took way too long, though. We're already over 30 seconds here. Okay, but a little bit better now. Hopefully this will crit. That's always kind of what it comes down to. It did, thankfully. And now we're just going to continue on here. Ooh, that hurt. All right, a little bit longer now, a little bit longer, come on. All right, there we go. We do have her full thing again. With all those coordinated attacks from her, it just, yeah, it's really nice. If I want to be safe though, oops, I messed that up, definitely. Oh my God, we're still doing so good though. We have plenty of time, so I'm honestly just going to play it a bit safe here and get some healing. But now I think we can go ahead and go back to Jinhsi. She has her full forte gauge again, dude. That is wild, and he's done. He's done, first try again, even though we definitely made at least a mistake or two in there. Wow, that was by far the easiest Hazard Tower I've ever done. And I've done at least 2 since getting level 90 characters, so that wasn't the only thing. All right. Also, by the way, my Jinhsi is S0. She does have her signature weapon, which, you know, helps obviously, but S0. So not too much investment into her. I don't think her stats are even that insane or anything either. 66 crit, 220 crit damage. So I'm gonna do something I don't usually do, but I actually wanna watch the video we just recorded of those clears to really pay attention to her damage because it was super hard to see. What I'm actually trying to look at first is her elemental skill attack, the 3, when you have the 3 orbs, which happens here. The first one does 16.6k as you can see, which is actually, you know, pretty solid sub-DPS damage. Next one does 17.3. But then the final one, 2 ticks of 69. So it does kind of make sense. The third skill is broken up into 3 103% multipliers. So the numbers are smaller. I guess I just didn't see the third one in there, but it must have happened. So yeah, just for those 3 E's, I would say 40 to 50k at least. And you can see when Jinhsi's on field, those Glacio numbers popping up, this 3400, that's her burst coordinated attacks. And then we can see once Jinhsi actually swaps out, they're actually doing even more at 4,300. So it does change over the course of battle. I'd say maybe on average they're doing about 4k flat, we can say, just to get a better idea of her damage. And over the course of her ultimate, that's another 84,000 in addition to giving Jinhsi her forte gauge, which is like the most important thing. I would say most of the other damage she does, like in this clip here, this is going to be our first rotation out to her in this battle. And you can see some numbers popping up there, like some under 1,000s, a bit of 4,000s there for like one of her elementals, but I'd say it adds a little bit. So with her 84k from burst plus like around 45k for her E, and then a little extra damage, I don't know, we're sitting probably at around 140k or something. With like 1 full rotation. And she is built like a support, you know, in Moonlit Clouds, giving buffs to the actual DPS. And she's still doing this much. That's actually really impressive. These are of course very rough estimates, and compared to the, you know, one-shot 274k our Jinhsi just did, it doesn't seem like a lot, but in the context of being a buffer and a coordinated attacker, it's actually really good. But yeah, I just wanted to look at her damage because it was really hard to pay attention to in the heat of battle. R. Please, R! Dead, right? Dead? Please 3? Yes! Whew! Okay, wow. There it is. I originally wasn't going to include this in the video because I wasn't expecting to actually get all stars. This was my first time doing so, but just for fun, you can see how messy it got near the end here. Let's start with the Resonant Tower, Chongli team, and then my Jian team for 2 and 3. And then for the final stage, we actually had to use my Jinhsi team because there's the Inferno Rider there, and Chongli couldn't do it because the dude has a lot of fusion resistance. We just didn't have enough time. And because we had to use our Jinhsi team here, that means for Hazard Tower, we actually had to use Chongli for the Impermanence Heron. This was by far the hardest thing, though it honestly still wasn't that bad. It mostly did come down to a time issue, and we got very close most of the times, so I knew I could do it. And then in the Echoing Tower, we used the Jinhsi team on the first floor because they had 1 energy left. My weakest team, which is Jian and Mortifi, both of them have pretty garbage Echo builds, honestly, and then finally ending it with the Chongli team. But yeah, I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I know I like have a bunch of units and stuff, so yeah, I'm sure this would have been possible earlier if I really bothered to make all of the older characters up to the standards of the newer ones I have. It's just their echo builds are so garbage, but yeah, there she is. I am super happy with her. I think she's an amazing character. Honestly, at first I just wanted her so I could use Yinlin in another team, but honestly, I would say now if I wasn't planning on using Yinlin in another team, I would still have her in this team instead of Yinlin. I'm not gonna say she's straight up better than Yinlin, whether that's the case or not, I don't even know. But I would say specifically in this team with Jinhsi, I at least prefer her. I'll say it like that, because she does feel much easier and smoother to play. She's not as complicated with having to get the forte gauge and all the quick swaps Yinlin can do. She's simpler, and that's why I like her more, to be honest. But yeah, I suppose that will pretty much do it for the video. I do think she's an incredible character, and if you got Jinhsi, I would heavily consider getting her. Also, I imagine we are going to eventually get a really nice cryo DPS at one point that could take even more advantage of Zhezhi. Let me know what you think about Zhezhi in the comments down below, though. Dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoy is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.